My presentation today will be on the ABC model of crisis intervention. My client is going to be a survivor of a near death experience with COVID 19. So, I'm just going to explain a little bit about what the COVID 19 is. It's also known as the coronavirus, which was first found over in Wuhan, China, that caused a huge outbreak beginning last year, 2019, and it is currently still a huge pandemic that we are dealing with today in our society, as most of you have probably heard. There are several strands of the coronavirus out, and most of them that we've heard of have caused mild symptoms of respiratory issues, but the new one that we are currently dealing with is causing moderate to severe respiratory problems and including death. This pandemic has caused several problems in our world today, including anxieties, depressions, furloughs, layoffs, and a shortage of our daily necessities such as toilet tissue and disinfectant products. The biggest problem caused by this virus is seeing our loved ones fight for their lives and trying to cope after recovery. You'll see that in my client Jake, who is a survivor of COVID 19. So, in part A of the crisis model, you'll witness a few of my basic attending skills, such as open ended questions, paraphrasing, and clarifying. So after introducing myself to my client, I asked him to explain what brings him in today. He expressed that he was having problems with anxieties and paranoias about death after having almost died. He spent so much time in the hospital that he got behind on his mortgage, and which caused him to possibly be facing eviction. He states that he feels hopeless and like he doesn't know his purpose anymore. So if you'll read below, you'll see a few of my questions that I asked him regarding validation and education and empowering. So the next model is going to be part B of the ABC model, and that's going to be the precipitating event, basically the event that's surrounding this entire crisis. So after my initial interview of my attending skills, I proceeded to ask my client the following: Jake, tell me what made you decide to start counseling. Did someone recommend it? Did you just decide to come? He responded with, when I began having problems sleeping and finding myself always thinking about what happened, I knew that I needed professional help. So a few of the questions that'll get me to bring out a little bit more about this event and see how he's thinking and where his mind is regarding this precipitating event are: how does that make you feel? What assumptions do you have about your situation? What does it mean that you have survived? What things are unclear to you about COVID 19? Sometimes gaining knowledge can be helpful. And if you look below, you'll see a few of my validation and education statements that I've listed below. These are just examples. The next part of part B is the cognitive key branch. So when you think about branches of a tree, of course, normally you start with the trunk and then the branches branch out to it. So branch one, which is cognition one, or part A, which is my basic attending skills. That would be my interview process, or as the book refers to it, as climbing the tree. So my client Jake presents because he's experiencing feelings of hopelessness, anxieties, and fears of death. Branch two will be my part B, the event. My client experienced almost dying. He had COVID 19, so he had been hospitalized, which caused him not to be able to work, thus falling behind on his mortgage and causing him his present crisis state. My branch three, or my part C, is discussed as coping. We reviewed his failed coping strategies and decided to start a log of detailed events surrounding his feelings and fears. I also suggested listening to music or taking a walk to clear his mind. And as far as the mortgage goes, We agreed that he would speak with his landlord or his lender about situations and setting up a financial agreement to make his mortgage payment become current. And of course, the trunk of the tree would be presented by the client, which is him coming into your office and presenting his case to you. So in this case, Jake's is a near-death experience with COVID-19, feelings of anxiety, paranoia, hopelessness, which makes it hard for him to sleep and even focus on a daily basis. And because of his hospitalization, he was unable to work and made him fall behind on his mortgage payment. So the last section of my presentation is going to be part C, or the coping method. So Jake expresses that he sees a life without anxiety, without being afraid of death. He's tried meditation. He's tried confiding in his friends in the past, but both of these have failed. As he says, his friends just influenced him to drink or use drugs to deal with the stress. And he just felt that the meditation that he tried was just plain out boring. So a few of the questions that I asked Jake, just in responding to how he was feeling, were to describe to me what you would like your life to look like moving forward. Describe what things to cope in the past that have helped you cope in the past. Did they work? Why do you think they failed? Things like that. So my last question to Jake was, what do you think about keeping a journal or a log, just in trying to get him to agree and to make him feel like he's a part of it? So listening to music and things like that. And of course he agreed and said that he was willing to try anything at this point. And of course, down at the bottom, you'll see a few of my statements: validation, education, empowering. So in my validation of coping, I told him that I wanted him to know that all of these things were normal, to go to your friends to seek encouragement and things like that. All of that is a part of being a human being, and it's normal to want to do those things. You have to realize that you are a human, and sometimes we make mistakes. Education is finding a strategy that works for him to help reduce anxieties. Well, if he found a strategy that works for him, it will help to reduce his anxieties. My empowerment statement was that I think that he made a great choice by coming here. I think he's doing a great job and that he will stick to these strategies. And I could hear the motivation in his voice to get back to normal. My refrain statement is, now that you can realize which strategies will not work for you, you can choose different ones that may work better. You are in control. And of course, my ethical check goes back to, how does this plan make you feel about living or moving forward? Things such as, are you basically thinking about committing suicide or committing harm or danger to other people? Just trying to figure out where he is mentally. So that just about wraps up my presentation on the ABC model of crisis intervention. And again, my client was Jake, and he was experiencing a near-death trauma with almost dying from COVID-19.